Welcome back, AP. All right, so let's go ahead and pick up right where we left off in class. We were talking about the unification of Germany underneath Otto von Bismarck, right? And we were also discussing the unification of Germany under Kaiser William, or aka Kaiser Wilhelm I, who was also in charge of Prussia at the time. And we're going to get into some semantics about, like, Greater Germany, Little Germany, the German question, etc., etc., etc. So go ahead, buckle up, and let's get after it. There are no transitions whatsoever in this Prezi because, quite frankly, I just ran out of time. Now, anyway, but let's go ahead and get into it, okay? So I know it looks like a lot, but I'll just cover up some stuff as we go and things like that, all right? So the big thing about Otto von Bismarck's biggest hurdles going forward is he keeps having to deal with this liberal parliament that exists within Prussia. This thing called the Landtag, right? The Landtag is going to keep putting barriers in his way because these liberal-minded, middle-class members of the Landtag want to resist militarism. They don't want to go to war. They don't want to pay higher taxes. This goes against laissez-faire economics, yada, 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 yada. But they keep trying to reject his moves to unify Germany. And this is even after he raised taxes along with the Kaiser and increased the size of the military just because they felt like it, right? And so Kaiser Wilhelm tasked Bismarck to prove himself to those liberals and to figure out a way to gain their trust, right? And he does this by going to war. That's right, he goes to war against Denmark? Yeah, like so. Denmark? When's the last time we talked about Denmark? Oh, wait, never. Now, anyway, so, coffee. Very essential when it's 6:55 in the morning. Now, anyway, but Bismarck is going to prove himself with the SchleswigHolstein War. You see, this is, say Schleswig-Holstein, all right? This is the second Schleswig-Holstein War, right? So what's going to end up occurring is you have to understand, looking at this map, that Denmark, due to the fallout of the Napoleonic invasions in the Congress of Vienna, Denmark is going to claim two very big regions, Schleswig and Holstein, right? Schleswig and Holstein have German-speaking people within inside of them, right? So Prussia feels that this is not okay for them to be controlled by the country of Denmark. Nationalism! All right, so this is a very, very big motive for him, okay? So backed up by Austria, who at the time was supporting the moves towards a larger German state, they want to strip the provinces of Schleswig and Holstein away from the Danish, right? And the Danes are going to be, like, the cause of this war is because the Danes try to bring them into their country completely by using a new constitution and creating two permanent states of Schleswig and Holstein cornered by the Danish kingdom. And so Bismarck takes offense to this, and revolts are going to break out, and they're going to go to war. And the war only lasted for about 9 months, okay? The Austro-Prussian War, or the Austro-Prussian alliance is going to swoosh into Denmark, and they're going to crush the Danish military. And Schleswig and Holstein are actually going to become parts of this new big conglomerated German territory out in the middle. Now, big problem though we got is this thing known as the German question. All right, so the German question, okay? The German question is basically, as things are progressing forward, and now that Schleswig and Holstein are in the possession of Bismarck and also the Austrians, so basically the way that it was supposed to go was after the war was over, the Prussians received Schleswig and the Austrians received Holstein with the ability to actually be able to travel and traverse going into either war. Now, the big thing, though, going forward is you have to understand that there was this idea known as the German question. And the German question is it going to be a massive greater Germany that's going to include Austria and have Austria being the forefront leader of this new country? Is it going to be led by Franz Joseph, who is the Austrian emperor? Is that going to be the direction of Germany we're going to go? Are we going to have this massive territory? Or are we going to have the little Germany that is controlled by Prussia, Bismarck, and Wilhelm, right? Well, you have to understand Bismarck is massively in favor of the little Germany scenario. Why is he in favor of the little Germany scenario? For two particularly big reasons. One, he doesn't trust or actually three particularly big reasons. One, he doesn't trust the Habsburg monarchy. They've been in control for so long, and Malaya hit the nail on the head, right? Nobody wants the Habsburgs involved in this new German-speaking territory. Second is because the Habsburgs control so many other people that aren't German-speaking. Croats, Serbs, Bosnians, Hungarians. The Austrians control all of those people in their Austro-Hungarian Empire, right? And then also, for the third reason, religion. The Austrians are still devoutly Catholic, right? Whereas Prussians are not. They're mostly Protestant, okay? So this little Germany is the Germany that Bismarck is in favor of, not this greater Germany, right? So the big thing, though, going forward is now that we've reclaimed Schleswig-Holstein and proven to the middle-class liberals that we have the ability to coordinate a successful country in the growth and the buildup of this German-speaking territory, now we got an issue. We don't want a greater Germany, we want a little Germany. So we got to get rid of the Austrians, right? Get them out of any territory that we seek to claim, okay? So how are you going to do that? Why are you going to do that? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Why the Austro-Prussian War? Again, a lot of it's because of religion, right? Their Catholic sentiments and the fact that Prussians are not, right? How is it so localized? Because if you actually look at this as well, how are you going to prevent Prussia from France from getting involved with this war and Russia from getting involved with this war? Well, you didn't really have to worry about Russia getting involved because the Austrians fought against Russia in the Crimean War, and Russia is still trying to modernize itself. They're dealing with a little baby revolution that's coming up soon, things like that, right? So Russia wasn't going to be involved, right? France was not going to be involved due to the fact that this war is going to be over so fast, right? So it's going to be so quickly done and over with that basically the French never had a chance to become involved, right? And a big reason why it was over so fast was because of this bad boy, the Dreisse needle gun, also known as the Zündnadelgewehr. All right, so the Zündnadelgewehr is this particular type of gun that had been invented in Prussia, and it's going to force this war to only last 7 weeks. This war is over in 7 weeks. That's right, not even 2 months, and the war's like, and then the Austrians are kicked out of northern German territories, right? And the reason why is, let's look at these two weapons really quick. Why was this so quick? A lot of it has to do with these weapons. Now, some of y'all might find this very interesting, like I do. I find the dynamics between firearms and war to be fascinating, right? I think military technology is very, very cool. I don't like the idea of going to war, but I do think the idea of constructing things to go to war is very, very neat. Now, the big thing about it, though, right here, okay, we have the two compared together, okay? We have the Austrian field rifle, which is actually going to be a front-loading musket, as you can see with its ramrod right here and things like that. And then we have this bad boy, the Dreisse needle gun, right? The Dreisse needle gun is phenomenal. It is so much better. It is legit because it is the first weapon of its kind. It is a breech-loading barrel or bolt-action rifle, right? You see this goofy little thing right here? That's a bolt, right? So on the Dreisse needle gun, you hit that thing up, pull it back, and you, instead of loading the bullets in the front of the gun one at a time and ramming it down the end, you actually slide them into the barrel from the back and then replace the bolt, pull up, and fire, right? There's another really, really amazing thing about the Dreisse needle gun is that all of its bullet parts come in a little acorn-shaped pack, right? And you just slide that thing in there like a bullet, replace it, and pow! And what ends up happening is a firing pin comes out of the back of the Dreisse needle gun and goes whink, and it actually ignites it actually hits a combustion element, ignites the bullet pack, and sends the bullet hurtling forward, right? So this device, this gun, is going to be far superior than this one. The untrained Prussian soldier could fire 6 shots a minute with a Dreisse needle gun, right? The trained Austrian soldier, the best, could only fire 2 shots a minute using their front-loading muskets. So if you actually look at this, the Austrians were simply overwhelmed by the Prussians, right? The Prussia absolutely overran them, pushed them out of the the northern area of what was known as the German Confederation at the time, and forced them to accept an armistice at the Peace of Prague in 1866, right? Now, this is an amazing development due to the fact that the Austrians were still using weapons that were actually much like that were actually, sorry, Amber Alert, I bet that woke up some of y'all just now. The Austro-Prussian War was actually just there at the tail end, right after the end of the American Civil War, right? Just like in 1864 with the SchleswigHolstein War, or the SchleswigHolstein War, that's going to be in 1864, right towards the end of our American Civil War. Now, so as you can tell, we are in favor of the Little Germany situation. Get them Austrians out. It does not take long, right? The armistice also, though, this is very important. Otto von Bismarck enters into this peace agreement wondering to himself, how am I going to deal with these Austrians now to prevent their uprising and prevent them from attacking us again later on? We need to enter into some kind of peace agreement in case we end up having to go to war later on to prevent them from allying with the people that we may fight against, right? And so what he does in this armistice is he says, hey, Austria, you don't have to pay $1 in reparations for this war. And the Austrians are like, keep going, right? They also told the Austrians, you are not going to lose any territory other than 2 small provincial states. And that's it. You're going to give Holstein to us, right? So, because look, you don't want it anyway. It's in the North German area. It's between Schleswig and Prussia. It's pointless for you, right? You don't need it. You're also not in the Zollverein, so you're going to have to pay taxes on any goods coming out of Holstein, like repeatedly when it crosses into Prussian territory. That not being in the Zollverein thing is a very important facet of this peace agreement, right? And then also, very, very important, the Venetians, that's right, the Italians allied with the Prussians during this war, fought along with them, and so they said, okay, and also to help our boys in Venice out, you got to give Venice to the Italians, right? Like, you got to give Venice to Victor Emmanuel II and his boys down there in Italy, right? And Victor Emmanuel's just like, yes, yes, yes. And they actually just gained Venice as their territory, and that's how Venice was incorporated into Italy, right? Was the Austro-Prussian War, a 7-week war, right? And the Austrians also had to withdraw from all future German affairs, as in the Little Germany affairs, okay? So now Bismarck has to do something else. He's now going to locally tame his parliament, all right? And we got maps on deck. You have to understand that now what we have is no longer Prussia, and it's no longer the German Confederation. It's not Schleswig, it's not Holstein. It's all of those things together, right? So looking at this map, this is the new country that was created in 1866. It's called the North German Confederation, right? The North German Confederation is going to be created in 1866, and as you can see right here, this is the progression of territories gained during this period, right? So as you can see, all the blue is gained in the all the blue right here was gained after the Austro-Prussian War, and from 1866 to 1865, and these small little teeny tiny little German principalities are going to end up joining around 1871, right? So we still have to figure out ways to bring them in, okay? Because that's why you can see there's these little like kind of chunks and little middle areas and stuff like that in that green. But basically what you have is this giant new Germany, right? This new fledgling Germany, okay? And there's a big thing is that Bismarck still thinks it's not enough, right? So he decides that he's going to create a new constitution to keep his liberals happy. He wants all this red to be united in a cause because he knows he's going to have to go to war again soon. Because if you actually notice, they actually own also this little chunk right here that's actually allied to him because that's the region of Hohenzollern, where actually the Hohenzollerns are from. Now, so what he gives them in this Constitution to keep them happy and to not buck back against any of his future motives, he actually does a lot of amazingly liberal things. This right here is realpolitik in action, right? He decides to consolidate the principalities into states, and each of them is allowed to keep their own local government. The middle class of the Landtags of every single region are very happy about this because they get to keep their elected officials, right? He also grants universal suffrage for all men over the age of 25, right? That's right, Bismarck, the conservative Bismarck, who supports a Kaiser, believes that universal suffrage was the way to go. This is a very important facet. Also, it led to the establishment of a new national legislative body known as the Reichstag, all right? Reichstag just means ruling house, right? The ruling house, the legislative house. And it would have a massive House of Representatives, right? That would be elected from all the North German Confederation states to come in and actually work with, discuss, and slightly limit the power of the Kaiser, right? And also, this is another big thing. He said, okay, if I'm giving you all these things, you just have to understand that I'm loyal to one person. I'm loyal to the Kaiser. I'm not loyal to y'all, right? I'm not loyal to the Reichstag. I'm actually his assistant. I have nothing to do with this legislative branch that we actually created. And they're like, okay, that's fine. And the Kaiser and the Chancellor, which of course is Bismarck, control the army, okay? So they're given executive privilege over the army, just kind of like our president is commander-in-chief, right? So the genius here is just like Napoleon III, Bismarck has secretly set up a system where he could go over the head of the liberal middle class straight to the people if he needed. He could actually create a plebiscite and have them vote on certain things if he wanted to. And also, due to the fact that Bismarck had gained so much acclaim, if he actually went to a plebiscite, they're going to vote for him en masse, just like they always voted for Napoleon. Like, for example, when 97% of them actually elected Napoleon III, a hereditary emperor, for the rest of his life, right? So all the real power really lay with Prussia, its Kaiser, and its military. The legislative bodies were created to just slightly limit that power and to keep those middle-class liberals happy, right? So now we're getting into another big thing, though. If you look really closely at this map, there's a giant region right here that the Germans still didn't own, okay? And this region down here is very, very special, very, very prominent. It's a region known as Bavaria, right? So Bavaria, as in where breads and beer and all these other amazing parts of German culture come from, right? Because the problem leading into the Franco-Prussian War is going to be the fact that there are some South German Catholic states. That's right. The reason why these people were not brought in immediately is because they're Catholic German states. Bavaria, very powerful, very Catholic, super duper wealthy, right? And they didn't want to be involved early on in a Protestant majority North German Confederation. So, how do you figure out a way to drive Bavaria into your arms? How do you do this? How do you figure out a way to make Bavaria want to be a part of this new North German Confederation and not turn towards Austria when they very easily could, right? So, answer? Have a war with France, right? So have a war with France due to the fact that France's border is right there. Make France seem like an imposing, threatening force towards German culture. Bavarians didn't like French people as much as it is due to the invasions of Napoleon Bonaparte after the French Revolution, and also just due to the fact that there's always been some very, very tense ill will towards French and German people up to this point, right? So the Bavarians, Bismarck believed, would come running to their aid if they felt attacked by France. So now Bismarck is at a very, very interesting little part. He has to figure out a way to force France to attack him, right? I need to figure out a way for France to come at me. If I'm the aggressor, the Bavarians may not be involved, right? I need to figure out a way to get them to come to me. And the way he does this is he taunts France into a war, right? And the why he does this is because the Spanish king, okay, very, very important, the king of Spain died with no heir, okay? Died with no heir whatsoever. So they were trying to find out who the next heir would be. And the guy that's going to show up to actually be the next Spanish king is a dude named Leopold, who's from this little region right here known as Hohenzollern, right? Which means he is a cousin of the German Kaiser, right? This freaks French people out. They're like, I don't want another 30 years war situation where I got Germans over here and I got Spain behind me and I'm feeling threatened from both sides, right? So there was some ill sentiment there. But then there was this other thing called the Ems telegram, right? So the French were not a fan of this. So Napoleon III sends his ambassador to a place called Bad Ems, right? And Bad Ems has a very large summer estate that Kaiser Wilhelm went to every year for a spa day, right? So he goes there for his spa treatments and things like that. And at this meeting between the French ambassador and Kaiser Wilhelm I, right? They actually meet with one another. And also, I'm going to put a little history is important video down in the description about the Franco-Prussian War if you want to actually watch it. The big thing about it, though, is the French ambassador goes up to Kaiser Wilhelm and says, you cannot and should not back your cousin becoming the king of Spain. And Kaiser Wilhelm's like, I mean, okay, whatever. I don't really care. He's a distant cousin anyway. It's not that big of a deal. And then this French ambassador says, and you will never support any Hohenzollern becoming a king of any country, especially Spain, ever again for the rest of the future. And Kaiser Wilhelm's like, well, I'm not going to do that because I can't do that because that doesn't make any sense because I have no idea who's going to be inheriting the thrones from any country, period, right? And that was all transponded in a telegram, right? That telegram was sent back to Bismarck. Bismarck, having a stroke of genius, though, then decides to post that telegram, slightly edited, of course. He posts that telegram in the newspaper, making it look like Wilhelm basically just said, hey, Frenchie, shut up and leave us alone. We don't care what you have to say. That angered Napoleon III, and Napoleon III is going to declare war, right? So Napoleon III is going to declare war during the Franco-Prussian War, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to jot this stuff down, but we're not going to talk about it right now. We're actually going to talk about it in class tomorrow, right? Because this is actually where the last little bit of stuff ends, okay? So do me a favor, jot this stuff down. Go ahead and take your time. I'm going to end it right here, and then we're going to talk about the Franco-Prussian War and how everything went down tomorrow in class, okay? Y'all have a great one. I'll see y'all then.